Thursday, September 9th, special council meeting in regards to the 2022 budget discussion. And with that, Mike, I guess I'll turn it over to you.
All right, just a couple opening comments. We have a lot of ground to cover today. We seem to get a new piece of information every day, and I got some new questions from Tom last night. I have not had a chance to look at them, so once I do, I can respond to them. But anyways, I've asked Harlan Johnson, who handles our health insurance and does other things for us, to come and present our health insurance renewal, talk a little bit about the process and what we can expect going forward. So go ahead, Harlan. And we just got this information last Friday, late in the day Friday. And then I think you had some questions for RTS that you cleared up yesterday.
Yep.
And then we're getting this in front of you as soon as we can. So go ahead, Harlan.
Thank you. Harlan Johnson, the Harlan V. Johnson Agency. Sat up one night thinking that title up, and it's been sticking for 30 years. I'm delivering your health insurance renewal, and I used to look forward to any time I had good news, but health insurance is so expensive now, even a half of percentage is serious bucks. But we do have good news. We've been with the Resource Training and Solutions Co-op. It's an EXU, it's an Educational Cost Sharing Unit.
Yep.
Harlan, you're breaking up on me when you don't look right into the mic.
Yeah, if you could talk right into the mic, Harlan.
Oh, okay. Quit looking around the room.
Yes.
So we've been getting our health insurance through Resource Training and Solutions out of Sartell for quite a few years now. They have a pool built of schools and other governmental agencies. So you've got to be a nonprofit, you've got to be a government agency or a government unit to be in this pool, and it's worked very well, to the point where I was actually kind of surprised when they decided to join with 6 other cooperatives around the state that are essentially just like Resource Training, and they just wanted to expand and increase their buying power, and they did a good job of it. They, for the first time, they had an RFP where more than one company responded. For many years, Blue Cross is the only one that would respond for RFP, a request for proposal. And but this year there was, they like to say 3.5. And Medica came in and saved the day and promised everybody's savings now and down the road. And we got a 3% rate increase for 2022. Out of the new Minnesota Health Consortium. We're still with Resource Training and Solutions. They have some regional programs that we wouldn't want to lose, but the bottom line is the health insurance is purchased through this much larger. I apologize, silent mode on. So, 3%. Keegan, I brought Keegan along to see how I'm doing, and Keegan does a lot of my small group business around the 5-county area, and we haven't, I don't think we've, the closest we've been to 3% is maybe 5.8. Most of them are 5.8 to 8.5%. So they did a good job. We are a small group, the city of Cross Lake, but we have large group purchasing power being part of this cooperative. And so we kind of see how we're doing against the small group market. And they've always been a little bit better, plus a cooperative health plan like Resource Training can give us a very specific health plan. And as we've jumped through the hoops over the years with the various unions, I think we're up to 3 now or something. They have specific requirements, and we're always able to fashion a plan that everyone agreed to. And the market, the private market doesn't. You get what's on the shelf and that's it. And there's other cooperatives out there that you take what they have available, where Resource Training and this new Minnesota Health Consortium and their partnership with Medica can customize your benefits, which has been an important factor here in Cross Lake over the last 4, 5, 6 years. I'm getting old. 8, 10, 12 years, Tom? So 3%. Isn't that exciting? It's, I'd like to say it went down 3%. I don't know if we'll ever see that, but if you look over the last couple of years, Mike has probably got a better record than me. Back in 2019, we had a 5% rate increase. 2020, we had 7.5. Last year was 4.8. Now we're down at 3 with a new vendor.
Is that a $3,000 deductible?
Yes.
Do you have a quote for the $5,000 deductible?
Yeah, there are, I was just speaking with Brittany Daniel, our contact there at Resource Training, about these other plans, and the state hasn't finalized the SBCs, the summaries of benefit and coverage, so, but these are real close. Yeah, there's HSA-wise, there's a 3,500 dash 20%. In other words, it goes to 80-20 after the 3,500, and it stays that way all the way up to a $6,000 deductible and a $7,000 deductible. So yeah, there's choices out there.
Okay, but we don't have those. We just have the
We've got
3,000.
rates.
Can we get the?
We've got rates pretty close. We just don't have the max out of pockets firmed up. We know pretty much what they're going to be, but we can't technically hand you a summary of benefits and coverage like we could for your current plan. Your
But
current
you-
plan is identical.
You can provide the, you say 5 and 6? 3, 5, 6, is that what?
Yeah, and the rates are pretty close. The rates shouldn't change. It's just we don't have the plan description. Should have
For a
that.
$5,000 deductible, you're going to get it for the same thing as $3,000 deductible? The rates don't change?
I didn't say, no, the rates
what you just
all
said.
change. No,
Okay.
The 3% rate.
I didn't say,
The
I was talking
3%
about
rate.
I apologize, Marcia, I thought I was talking about the summary
But
of benefits and coverage.
I guess we can't make a decision until we see the other deductibles to see the cost savings. Higher deductible would save the citizens of Cross
Oh,
Lake.
yeah, that's there. It's,
No, the other thing we
but
need,
in the past, it's been a negotiation with your unions, your employees'
and-
unions.
Yeah, and all those contracts end at the end of this year, so there would be the capacity to negotiate something like that.
If that's the case, yeah, it's, have you guys scheduled those negotiations?
our first meeting with the next one that's up is MINP. That's next Monday, I believe.
Yeah, sir, it's, you can save money if you increase the deductible. I guess that's the fairest way to say it. The only reason I hesitate, Marcia, is it's always been a negotiated process.
Yeah, and we will be in that negotiation process the next couple of months. So it would be good to have that kind of information
Oh,
so
yeah,
that we
yeah.
can do that. And the employees get that deductible in their, put in their HSA account. So it's not harming the employees right now for the 3,000 deductible, because the ones that are under family coverage get a 6,000 contribution to their HSA to cover that deductible. I don't,
That's out of
assume-
my purview. I know
Yeah.
about that because I want to ask questions, but, or answer questions. But, you know, it's been a couple of arm lengths away, those negotiations. I've essentially delivered the plan they want and shopped the market doing it.
All I'm
So-
asking is that we have that information provided
Okay.
to us, maybe at the next meeting, or,
How do the benefits under all those plans change with the change in deductible? Or we don't know that yet? Yeah,
We don't have the exact verbiage, but we could do a spreadsheet that shows, and you pay less, you get less. So, yeah. And as a private individual or private corporation, you could make that decision. It's been a little trickier over the past few years with governmental agencies when you have unions involved. So, I don't know what, maybe you need to feel that out. I don't know. But yeah, we'll produce the other deductibles and so, you know, actuarially, they've got you coming and going, Marcia. I've got the $3,000 deductible, pays 100% afterwards. Mike has got the 6,000, you got the 7,000. At the end of the day, in a big claim, we all spend the same amount of money. Mike pays a little bit less, but he pays more at claims time. So
right.
there's
I
no
understand that
magic
whole
out
thing,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. So, do you guys have a timeline for when you need, I mean, I can have those rates probably tomorrow afternoon. They just won't be guaranteed the maximum out of pockets and stuff because the state hasn't signed off on them, but
When do you have to notify Resource Training and Solutions what plan you're going to take?
I think their deadline is the middle of October.
Middle of October, that's it. Okay.
this one says
Thank you.
October 1st.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
On there? Thought she just told me.
Yeah, they
October
don't-
15th. I'll confirm that.
Have a real big window to decide.
Excuse me?
They don't have a long time to decide. But the plan that you're presenting is consistent with the ones that we've had in the past that have already been accepted by both sides, is the point.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was gonna pawn around for, is that I thought that those discussions within the unions themselves had probably been decided, so. And
Yeah,
not,
and-
you guys got, you know, you guys write the check, so.
It probably has, but just if we could have them just to look at them for
Yeah.
that meeting, those comparisons or those comps.
So be it.
Yeah.
We can go over that with our labor attorney, whether we can change things like that or not, so. But we should still have, you know, the facts.
Here's
the
what we'd like
figures.
to go to.
Yeah.
We'd like to save some money
Exactly.
and go to this plan, so be it.
Exactly, appreciate it, thank you
Okay.
very much.
Yeah, you know, one thing you want to keep in mind when you're having those discussions is that it'll be very hard to negotiate a different plan for each union because of our size
That's the beauty
and the way
of
we're set up, so,
this particular plan. It was agreed to by
by all of them.
all of them, so.
Things change all the time, so I guess if we just have the figures,
Yep,
that'd be great.
yep.
Thank you very much.
So be it. Thank you.
Thanks, Harlan.
Thank you.
All right, so John, if you could give me So we've got quite a bit of ground to cover right now. We're on item 2B. So we're referring back to our budget packet from the 25th. That I've included that in your materials for today, but it's information you already have. Before we get into the details of the budget, I'd like to confirm our truth and taxation meeting. And I'm suggesting, we talked about it on the 25th, but I'm suggesting we do that at our regular council meeting on the 13th of December. We could either do it at 6 o'clock, have the
December?
meeting?
Oh, December?
December.
December, okay.
That's the truth and taxation.
Yeah, we're required to have that and publish that.
I'm okay with that.
If you want to do it at 6 o'clock, we can have that before our regular council meeting.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we hold the truth and taxation meeting and final levy certification on December 13th, 2021 at 6 p.m.
I second that. John Andrews seconds it.
Okay, motion and a second on that, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you. So item 2B2, we'll set our next budget meeting at the end of our discussion today. And that would be for the purpose of setting the preliminary levy, if you're not ready to do that Monday or not. So
When does the preliminary have to be in?
the end of this month.
The end of this month? Oh,
Correct.
Okay.
So if you're not satisfied with where you're at today, you're not comfortable with it, I think we can get there today. And the goal today is to try to get to some comfort level with what the preliminary levy might be, and then finalize the detailed budget till we get to the final. Now, my goal today is to not look at every line item in the budget and debate it, but rather look at the bigger picture, knowing that we'll have some changes. You know, I mentioned earlier, I did get, 3 pages of comments from Tom Swenson. I have not had a chance to look at those. So my intent is not to debate each one of those line items today until after I've had a chance to respond to those.
But I have questions.
I'm
going
sure
through
you
the
do.
Budget, so.
So let's just keep moving here. On the changes from the last meeting, just to get everybody up to speed, reduce the 2020 road projects. Now, when I say 2020, I'm referring to, we've delayed the road project a number of years now. And so we're really talking about 2022 here. So if you think about it, if you're at the Public Works meeting earlier this week, we made some changes to the 2022 road projects. One was to change the Whitefish area from an overlay to chip sealing. In doing so, we took about $350,000 out of the budget. And so the other thing that we've done is we've gone back and we've identified through that process, do we have any money left over from this year's budget that we didn't spend that we had planned to spend for roads? The answer to that is yes. Now, we made some changes to that. A number of changes we made was, remember we had Wild Wind Ranch that we held over from 2020 and 2021. We received some money from for road funds from the state for about $90,000. We carried over the money at our August 25th meeting of about $458,129 that we didn't spend for roads that we planned to spend this year that we levied for, so we don't want to levy again for it. But we had some changes to that. We had allocated the Perkins Road settlement to that. We also allocated the, question, Dave?
No.
Okay. The stop signs to it. And so when we decided not to do the roads, so we took for 2021, we took the related bonded debt out too. Plus and minus, we took out the expense and we took out the revenue. So we don't want to double up on things. So my best guess today.
Did you put the 89,000 in
Yes, I
there?
did.
Okay.
My best guess today is, and it changed again today, we'll have about $280,000 at the end of this year, after we complete our projects, to place towards next year's roads, okay? So when you look at that, if you take all of that into account, it really doesn't make sense to issue bonds for next year's roads. And if you look at your budget package, where the actual budget is from August 25th, I'll try to walk you through what that means.
What page is it, Mike?
That would be on page 6 of the budget packet. We talked about this at our last budget meeting. You know, we knew we had some changes in the,
Mike, can I just ask you something?
Sure.
Are the pages gonna coincide with
Yes, they
the other
will.
one? Because that's where I have all my notes if I start looking at
they'll
it.
be the same
Okay,
pages.
all right,
It's the same
thank you.
packet. Yep. Should be. So if everyone gets there, we talked about what do we do with this $591,000? And we were kind of debating that to talk about what, all that's going to depend on what we do with roads, all right? Because the whole idea was we're going to need some level of debt for the roads we're proposing. If I take that out, this number changes significantly. It drops quite a bit. So by taking out, using debt for the city's share of the road versus paying cash for it, this number drops. And so there's a couple ways to look at this. And one is, let's look at what changed. And when we do that, we basically take out $765,000 of bonds, which is right here. That's what we were planning to issue new bonds for, to pay for the next year's road projects. So that goes away. Because we reduced the project cost and we have money left over to pay for it. So it wouldn't make sense to issue new bonds for a very small project when we have this here. So if we take that out, leaving all things the same, the other change I made to the budget was I reflected a 3% increase for health insurance premiums over the previous year. The original budget, the league was suggesting somewhere around 10. So I made that change in the model I'm going to show you here in just a second.
Can I ask where the 2021 certificates payment is?
Where is
I
it?
couldn't find it in here, and I'm probably looking in the wrong place.
Yeah, there's only an interest payment on that one. It's like 20,
What?
there's an interest payment on that one of about 22,000.
For we're talking about the fire truck, I'm assuming.
Right, the new fire truck.
But I don't see any 2021 certificates in the
It's
budget.
probably still under the old one. I used the same GL account for it, for the equipment
Well, I mean, in your
certificates.
general fund, it has, oh,
Let me
I
finish
don't-
this one first.
okay.
So when I take
Not
out the
that.
bonds for the roads and make those adjustments, we've got about $72,000 of stuff we could identify where that goes. That's not a whole lot, considering when the adjustment in dollars from 2021 to 2022, most of it is taken up by the change in the debt service for the prior year. That only leaves you about $16,000 to handle the rest of the stuff in the general fund. Now, that's assuming we had the same picture that we did when we talked on the 25th, okay? If we change that a little bit and look at the same tax rate as the current year, you have a little bit more of a cushion to handle things like where are we going to end up ultimately with negotiations, where are we going to end up with some of the things going on with, do you want to talk about staffing for VRBOs or Or how do you want to reconcile that is the question. So ongoing building maintenance, we haven't talked about that either. So there are things that would more than take that up if you decide to go forward with it. I just wanted to point that out to you. But if you go back to, if I stay back on track and say, okay, what changed? On the revenue side, I took out the bonding, so we have a lower revenue number, because I'm suggesting we pay cash for the projects if we do the projects we're intending to for roads. Now, that does not answer, do we assess for those projects or not? I'm not even addressing that. If I look at the expenditures, I had a 10% inflation factor in for health insurance, and it looks like it was closer to 3 that we just talked about. And then I add $11,000 for the engineering for the cemetery. That's how I get to,
Is that page in here?
it's page 2C in your packet.
Oh.
Those were the changes. What I have not adjusted for,
I don't have a 2C.
what I have not adjusted for in this budget was a memo I got late in the day yesterday from TJ. We'd been talking about, do we want to have an intern in the park or not?
Oh, we went from 2B to 2C.
You know, we've had a lot of discussion, at least TJ and I have had, you know, what can we do with some programming changes, youth programming, different programs at the Parks and Rec. What TJ is suggesting, oh, there was memo up here. He's looking at, he'd like permission to apply for some funding with Sourcewell for an intern for next summer. But to do that, he needs to get going on it now. If you remember, if you were here when we did that for the Loon Center, we hired an intern, worked with Sourcewell to pay for an intern to do some research to determine whether or not it was feasible to build a Loon Center in Cross Lake. We did that through the Sourcewell internship program. This would be similar to that, only it'd be for programming in the park.
Is this for the packet on Monday? Is he going to talk about this? Or no? TJ?
I don't know if no, this is for the packet today.
Okay.
You know, we wanted to get it in front of you as soon as we can because we're talking about the budget, and this impacts the budget year we're talking about. The impact on the budget would be 0 because we're looking at doing it fully with a grant and other donations. So I think, Marcia, you're aware of that.
Yeah, I'm aware of this.
Yeah.
Actually, it was a suggestion from Pell to improve the youth programming during the summer. And they felt that if we could get an intern in there to do it rather than, you know, staffing something permanently, that the internship would be the way to go. And I don't know what kind of programs that they're even talking about, to tell you the truth. It's youth programming. I don't know what they're going to set up. That would be something that this intern would, and TJ would take care of.
Yeah, well, one of the comments we get from residents with the community center is, you know, you've got great pickleball courts and great trails, but what can my kids do at the park? What programs do you offer? What services do you offer for them? Do you have whatever they would come up with? And that's what this would be for, would be to come up with, implement unique and engaging activities for Cross Lake youth for the summer months. He'd like to get going on it now, so we have a plan in place when the year starts, and we can get rolling on it.
Oh, I think we should, but
Yeah.
it's donated money, it's not budget money, right? So,
It'll go into our budget, but it'll have 0 impact, but you should know
But you'll
about it.
have it on revenue on the other
Yep,
end
there'll
for
be a revenue and
donations.
expense. Yep.
So it's, you're right, it's a 0 impact to
Yeah.
the levy.
I think I would definitely support that if that's
Yeah.
what you're asking, yeah.
Yeah, if you could have a motion for that, we can get TJ working on it right now, so we're ready to roll when the new year comes.
I'll make a motion to approve TJ's request for an intern for the summer youth program for 2022.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
I should probably take roll call vote on that?
Sure.
Okay. Dave Nevin,
Yes.
Dave Schrupp,
Yes.
John Andrews,
Yes.
Aaron Herzog,
Yes.
Marcia Siebert-Wills.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
So, on the roads, I've got this summary
Yep,
that Bill put together. So we picked the 205 for Wildwood Ranch Drive, the 215 for Rushmore, the Birch Narrows, 286. We do not pick the 456, 700 bituminous overlay, but we picked the seal coat. Is that what we,
I don't recall that. We had a lot of discussion about it.
did we kind of,
I think that
I'm just
The,
pulling them up.
I think the motion was that they were going, the Public Works was going to recommend these road projects with the exception of the Whitefish Avenue. Am I correct? I think it was your motion, Tom. I'm pretty sure. Well, maybe,
That's correct, only whitefish would be a chip seal.
yeah. And it would be a maintenance issue then.
yeah.
But that was Public Works, so the city council hasn't.
I'm just trying to get an idea of
Yeah.
the number.
Yeah, the
that-
city council hasn't approved that yet, but that was the recommendation that'll be coming. So my intent was, when I looked at the budget, was to reflect that change so we could take a look and see what that might look like. And so in doing so, you know, Dave Schrupp is correct in his math. Remember, we had 1,171,000 in
Yeah.
those roads? That leaves us $706,000 if you total those up for the 2022 road projects. This is not in your packet.
I got 821.
You will,
100.
but you've got 110,000 of chip sealing. I have it broken out into overlays versus chip
Oh,
sealing.
that's additional, or, really?
Yeah, you take the 1,171,000, take the 456,700 out, and then add 110.
Oh, it says 115 here. And
Yeah,
seal
it's-
coat is said here, chip seal is different?
I think we decided on 150 because we know we're gonna have
Oh,
to
there
do
was some work on the road,
corrections.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so,
So we can change that to 150. Okay, so those are some of the things that are impacting,
that's not in here yet, though, is it?
no,
That
I'm
change.
sorry. I have 110 in for chip sealing. It's not in the, and you just said 150, so we take another, put another 40 in there. That's not reflected in the August 25th budget.
See, it's over 800.
Mike, if I may, it was about 65 to 70 for the chip seal, and the rest of it was for the patching and some crack sealing on it. And it was between $110,000 and $115,000 was the engineer's estimate for the chip sealing maintenance-wise for Whitefish, Hilltop, and Woodland. That's what his estimate was.
So
That's
I'm
what
sorry,
this says 115.
Was that 115 plus the 60 or 115? and
115 total.
Total.
And that's $821,100 with the 115.
Yep, so I'm $5,000 short
Yeah.
on it then. Okay, so,
We're gonna pay cash for that?
yes.
We have that much cash laying around?
Well,
The 115 would be a part of the levy.
correct.
Right?
So let's talk about that for a second.
Thanks.
And the best way I can try to explain this is if I go to the budget packet from August 25th. And give me a second there. And if you go to page 23 of that packet, it should look something like this. That's too big. So when we first started this for August 25th, we tried to identify how much are we going to end up with at the end of the year of cash that we can put for roads that we plan to spend in 2021, that we levied for, that we didn't spend. That number was $406,000. Now, since then, we've made some changes. You know, we've added the road money, we've taken the stop signs or the crosswalks out of there, we've spent some money in the, on the projects to date through August. We've also decided to use the money that we set aside on August 25th to pay for the Perkins Road settlement. So when I make all of those changes, and when I take out the change in Manhattan, or Whitefish, you know, I take $350-some thousand out of that project, the whole picture changes, okay? And so it wouldn't, in my view, it wouldn't make sense to issue bonds, and I'll show you this here. You don't have this because this has been kind of a moving target.
Well, on this debt service, it's still not real clear, and we've been jumping all over the place, but I'm still not clear where the payment is for the 2021
Let's finish this thought, and we'll go to that next, okay?
Yeah, okay, because I think it would be easier for everybody if we just went through and had our questions page by page instead of going here and going there and trying to figure out,
Okay, got it. So let's finish this thought.
okay.
So when we make those changes to the road projects, the picture changes we talked about earlier. And in my opinion, it doesn't make sense to issue bonds for it. Because, if I can find the right page here.
Well, we have to get a handle on what the actual
And we
debt
will.
service is.
We know what the
because-
actual,
Because that would make a difference on whether you're gonna have to levy a lot for those roads or not.
it's got the debt service levy for this year has nothing to do with what we're talking about for roads right now. So let's just hold that thought for a second. So when we take the bonds that we would issue for the roads for 2022 out, the whole picture changes. We've got $282,000 for that project. We don't need to issue debt for it because we can use our current year cash to pay for it. So now, let's go to Marcia's question so we can put a fork in that.
I'm just saying that
Yeah, I
you
know what
need to
you're
know
saying.
where your debt service amount is before you say we don't have to issue any bonds. That's where I'm at.
Well, we have two issues.
Yeah.
We're
So
trying.
do you have that 2000, that fire truck in here? Because I can't find it, and I'm probably not looking in the right place.
Okay, we have two issues. The first issue is, do we want to issue bonds for new projects for next year? Yes or no? I'm saying no, based on the changes we've made.
Okay, Mike.
The second question is, how are we paying for the debt we currently have, and where are those payments? So just give me a second, and we'll find that.
So let me just throw in a quick one on the bonds for next year. Can we put the roads and the sewer project together as a bond, and then does it make sense to do?
Let me answer Marcia's question first so we can move on. So the payment you're looking for, let me see if I can find it in here.
I thought it would have been on page 9, expenditures. I don't know. I don't see it, and it doesn't mean that it's not
Right.
labeled wrong or something else, but it's not there, and I don't see the amount that it would be, because it isn't it 145,000? You have it in there for revenue, but you don't have it expended out. Because it's on.
Go to page 37, please. The payment you're looking for is $21,865. It's in the expense side on the levy. Now, when you levy for bonds, you have to make sure that when you're making the payments, that you have the money in the bank to make it. So you have to levy before you make the payment.
So we're not paying any principal on it, it's all interest?
For 2022, it's interest. The next payment, the first principal payment would be in February of 2023.
Okay.
So to have money in February 23, you have to levy it and receive it in 2022. Okay?
So that's 2021, not 2000, you have 15B and 2019A, so this is 2021.
Yeah, that should be 21.
Okay, so I couldn't find it, and that was the reason.
Well, it's there, so we got it cleared up, so let's move on. So the other things we had talking about were, we talked a lot about what does our levy look like with the model that we're working with. And we talked on the 25th, it was about 29.2% would be our tax rate. And when we talked about that, we also talked about things like the dollars are changing, but most of the dollar increase is being taken up by the levy for the new city hall and the fire truck. So if your levy goes up from your budget from August 25th, if your levy goes up $156,000, most of that's taken up by the change in the debt service levy.
Okay, so now I know that we looked at capital outlay projects for 2022.
Yep.
I still question why we would budget $175,000 for that land.
What should it be?
Do we need the land?
Yes, we do.
Behind Public Works?
Ted, can you speak to that?
The engineers have identified that land as where the biosolids and the rest of the treatment plant will go in the future.
So it's a future
It's a
expenditure.
future expenditure, but while he's still around and was willing to sell it to us, we were trying to acquire the property now, so we had it.
So how did you come
Can't
up
we
with the
take it by
175?
eminent domain?
175, if you remember right, we offered in the 130, 140, 138. He wanted 175, so that's what I put in there was 175.
So was that appraised?
I don't think it's ever been appraised. We looked at tax value, I don't think it's ever been appraised. I can't say that to that, so.
I guess I wouldn't feel comfortable with saying we're gonna spend $175,000 in the budget and we don't even have an appraisal. And it's actually, it would be a public purpose and we could have an appraisal and take the land, right? I mean, right?
Yes, you could.
Do you do that in Cross Lake?
No.
You don't?
Yes, we have.
Well,
Take it?
Yep.
well, yeah, you pay for it.
Yeah, you pay for it.
That's not what I understand take it to be.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I should have said, we can take it by purchasing it from you.
Yeah, and that's why we're talking about this now.
Because it would be
and
a public purpose.
You know,
I don't want to get everybody excited here. I'm not trying to take anything.
But that 175 does not affect our levy today,
Yeah,
right?
It does, because we're levying for it.
Oh, it is in the levy?
I put it in the
So-
mix to,
So if you take that out, on this other page, you don't have to increase it 150,000 if you take that land out.
if you took that out, you could drop it by that amount.
Yeah.
So can we talk about that for just a moment, that property? Do we need to do it this year? I mean, I don't think that property's going anywhere.
I don't know, I just
I don't
know
know who
Randy
could-
had, and I shouldn't be using names, I know that, but he had expressed interest to sell it to us.
This year? Have
Well,
you-
this was this past year. He's expressed interest.
Okay.
The engineers identified that we need to purchase the property. So all I was trying to do is while he was still interested about selling it to us, to move forward with it, so.
Okay, my thought on it is I don't think we need it this year. I can't foresee that it's going anywhere else.
The biggest problem right now is that he has easement across our property. We cannot shut the gate and landlock him in there. He has a driveway that goes across our property. We cannot even shut up the area that we're using for the yard waste recycling. And we have people coming in from the backside down his driveway and coming in after hours.
I
And
thought we were gonna put a gate with a button or something for him on that.
we did, but he doesn't want to get out and open the gate all the time.
He
A
can't click it
remote.
and open it remotely?
No, we don't have that one that's down on his driveway. There's no power access to it. We'd have to do something solar and batteries and,
Okay, but, if we're budgeting for it now, I just don't know that, what is it, 4 acres, something there?
I don't remember what it is, Mr. Mayor.
How about if we just,
I'll make a motion that we.
can I talk just a second?
Oh, I'm
We're gonna
sorry.
need that land,
We are gonna need it
I agree.
sometime, yeah.
But rather than put that big 175 in the levy, and you don't know when, how about if we just put 50 in there and just remember that maybe next year we'll have another, that same 50 in there? And I just hate to deplete cash, I think we need to get some cash rather than go into the phone company.
Well, the other thing you could do too is you could direct staff to you could give us a timetable when you want to buy it, and we could go look and see what we could do.
Well, I'll make a motion that we take it out of the 2022 budget, the 175,000.
In its entirety?
Yes?
Okay, well, I think I'll second that, yeah. So, any other discussion on that? Can we have Tom? He wants to comment on it. Can we let him do that in the middle of a motion? No? Okay, so we got a second. Any discussion, questions on it?
I still think we should leave some money in there. Unless we know when we're gonna get it, we need to plan on saving some money for that.
I guess I would ask a question of you then. If you're taking that out, you should, because the whole purpose of getting that was for biosolids, you should probably take all of the biosolids out too.
Well, we don't know when we're gonna have to address the biosolids.
If you look, there was a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
Equipment that's in here, the land, all of that was addressed in the 5-year plan. Some of these things have been bumped back a couple of years, and alls I did is I followed what the 5-year plan, I brought that plan forward again.
But-
If you want to take and wait on these things, that's the council's prerogative. You can put it off until you absolutely have a letter and a drop dead deadline. That could be 2 years, it could be 10 years, it could be 15 years. We do not know.
But in the biosolids, that's a $1 million project, right?
Yes, that's a
So
big project.
why wouldn't we combine the land acquisition in that whole amount? We're going to bond for that. Why wouldn't we do that instead of levying for it?
Yeah, that's been
It
discussion before.
just makes sense.
Yep, we've gone back and forth on that. We've tried to get the land before we started that process. And there was an effort to do that a few years ago that failed. So we just left it in there so we wouldn't lose sight of what we're trying to accomplish. Because you don't want to get to the 12th hour and then all of a sudden you're at someone's mercy for,
Does anybody oppose me letting Tom, he's got a comment he'd like
Can I
to
ask
make.
one more question here?
Sure.
Didn't we spend some time and money on an engineering concept for an alternative to the biosolids?
Yes,
Your bags, and where are we with that? That was kind of what you were planning on doing.
that's the $1 million. That is the bag system.
And you have some solid numbers that support that?
Yes, we
If Joe
do.
Blow walks in here and says, what are you doing to the sewer plant? How come it's $1 million? That's all
Yes, we do. We have solid numbers.
right.
What we'd want to do is if let's say it's 10 years from now or 5 years from now, we'd want to take and redo the testing we've done, the background testing on our biosolids, because things change. and run through the battery tests again, and then revisit the numbers, because it could be, the way we were talking about doing it doesn't work anymore, we don't know, that things change, so. Chemistry changes in the wastewater plant, so.
So what's the worst thing that could happen if the state, I mean, you know how the MPCA works and everything. I can't believe that they'd say in a year you're gonna have it converted.
I didn't say that. I said that if Pine River gets pushed to shove,
Right.
and they stop them, right now, they put them on notice. Our engineers actually worked with the Pine River Sanitary District on talking about some of the things we're talking about today, their biosolids. And it could be 2 years, it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years. We do not know what that drop dead date. They're trying to come up with another native rhizome that does the same as the reeds. As of yet, they have not done that. So that's another avenue. But this is all the Department of Agriculture, Minnesota MPCA, so.
But
I'm not upset with Ted. He
No.
doesn't know.
Yeah.
And you don't know, we know even less. So I don't know that we can put money in the budget when we don't even know.
Exactly.
I would say we're 2 to 3 at a minimal out.
And I would say that if the state gives us the nod, you gotta make a change, that we're gonna get 2 to 3 years.
They'll put you under a stipulation agreement when they demand you to take action on
Right.
something like that. And then you'll sign a stipulation agreement with them that you'll do this at this time, this at this time. And you might even be able to get funding if you're under order from PCA to do it.
I personally would like to focus our resources on a sewer extension and the road projects.
And see, that's part of the issue. You're gonna extend the sewer, you're gonna produce more biosolids. You're gonna produce another 20 to 15% biosolids. And that's the end product. You give clean water and you have biosolids. Clean water goes to the river, you produce biosolids. So you have to account for that 10 to 15%. Right now, we're gonna take that additional, will be taken over to Pine River. So that's the other thing.
Yeah.
I just everybody realize there's an end product when you extend the sewer, so.
Right, but I mean, they're still gonna take that until they're not.
As of right now, they're glad to take it because it's a revenue source for them.
Yeah. So, Tom, please.
Mike doesn't get upset that I'm a citizen addressing you. I'll address you as a Public Works
Okay.
Commission member. I kind of agree with Dave to put something in there for that land. And what I'm thinking is, if you see all the pole barns going up around town, somebody could come in and buy that land just to put a toy shed up there, and then we're screwed in the future. My thought, and it's sort of in that thing I gave you, but I think the first step would be to ask the owner's permission to let us have an appraiser go in there, go through the building, and come up with an appraisal price, and stick some money in the budget, so you have money for the appraiser, and you're starting to stick some money in the budget to purchase it. But we've been talking about this for probably 3-4 years, trying to buy that, and it just keeps getting kicked down the road. Until you get it appraised, you don't have anything to even talk to the guy about. He's pulling a number out of the air that, he thinks that he's on the gravy train because everything is selling so high. And maybe it would be, but, a piece of land next to the sewer plant, I don't know. I think before you can even negotiate with them, you need to get an appraisal of the property, and then you've got a starting point at least to say, the appraisal came in at 120, you're asking 175, and then maybe however you end up negotiating, but maybe you do want to stick a little bit of money in the budget just so you have some seed money to get it appraised. And I would just be worried that I see all these pole barns going up everywhere in town, and there isn't that much land left that'd be a perfect spot for somebody that has some money that'd pay 150 or 170 for it and put up a pole barn, and then we're stuck for forever. But
Can I maybe just offer something up? We talked about combining the sewer project with the roads. And I was talking a little money each year, but why don't we just combine the purchase of that lot with the sewer project? Can you do that? And just, I mean, that,
And the road project, I mean,
just
could we
put it all
group
in
them?
one deal, and then we're paying off that number a little bit a year.
Sure, to
We'll
Tom's
just
point.
buy it next year.
To Tom's point, you know, I'm in agreement with Tom that could happen. And one thing you might want to think about too is a lot of times when you have an entity interested in a piece of property and you're trying to control who it gets sold to, you can ask for an agreement for the first right of refusal. And
Right.
you're all familiar with that. You know, you could do that if they'd be agreeable to it. It puts both parties at ease that one day you're not, you know, the new buyer comes in, we do an assessment search, it's all clear, and all of a sudden, there's a permit issued across the counter to do something different than what's on that property, and we're just out. At least that way, you'd have some way to control the use of it, because what I'm getting from Ted is you're gonna need that at some point, correct?
So the engineers, they say we need that much property to do what they want to do, or need to do.
So whether it's this year or next year, or 5 years from now, at least you control the outcome.
Yeah.
Mike?
You could put it in on the sewer project,
You could, yep.
and you're gonna bond for that, right? The sewer project.
And that's a little bit of it every year, whatever your duration is.
Yeah.
Mike?
But the point
Mike?
is, it's in there, so you're aware of it, and that's what the current asking price is.
I think we get a motion and a second on the floor already.
No,
For it.
I'm trying to get in if I could.
Fire
Can you hear
away.
me? Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Eric.
Yes,
Okay. If we want to leave it in, we can leave it in, and in the December meeting, we could reduce the budget by whatever amount we decide to reduce that by, and the percentage at the same time. So we're not locking it down where it has to go forward absolutely into 22. I think we need to leave money there, and I agree with Dave and Tom that we need to start looking at this a little more seriously before we actually get hurt on it.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second on the floor. Let's just let that die.
Okay?
Okay, I mean, so all in favor? Aye? No one?
could someone restate the motion? I couldn't understand it. The Zoom is very garbled to me.
The motion was to remove the $175,000 for land acquisition from the budget.
Thank you. And I vote no.
I'll take a roll call vote. John Andrews,
No.
Aaron Herzog,
No.
Marcia Ziebert Bowles, Dave Nevin,
Yes?
Dave Schrupp.
No. Okay, motion fails. Motion fails.
Worded a little different because some things in the budget are in the levy and some aren't. I would just soon see it listed on the budget, but not on the levy, part of the sewer projects coming down the road, where it doesn't affect the
You
levy.
should have taken it out, and then you know you're gonna put it in on the sewer project bond issue next year.
Then we could make another motion that says we're gonna take it out and add it to the sewer project and bond for it.
Staff could be directed to start on negotiating with him, find out if you can get in there for an appraisal, and we'd have some firm numbers.
I don't think he would object to it. He's very
I think we need
easy to
to,
work with.
I think we need to get an appraisal and then move on with the dollar figures, but it should be put in the sewer project
Right.
rather than the levy.
I agree.
Okay.
So what are we gonna levy for it? What are we gonna pull out money for this year for it?
We're
175?
gonna levy $175,000 for land acquisition right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and so what we're doing is we're moving it to the sewer project, so we take it out of your public works area, because at the time we were looking at it, we weren't clear if it was going to be used for additional storage or whatever. or if it was gonna be directly for the sewer plant, but now we're saying it's gonna be part of the sewer project, so we take it out of the levy, and we'd increase the sewer fund portion of that project by the same amount.
I'll make a motion that we put the land acquisition of $175,000 in the sewer budget, project.
Okay,
I'll second that.
we have a second. Char?
Marcia Ziebert Wills,
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes.
John Andrews,
Yes,
Aaron Herzog.
Yes.
Motion carries.
So then do we go right to the biosolids, or do we take that out now? Because, yeah,
Well, that would be the next thing, would be to, have Ted make a recommendation on what's in there right now and request that to be moved, right?
We'll just move this to a future time when we get the letter from the state. So we'll just take the $1 million out of there and move it to a future needs.
yeah, we know it's inevitable, but it's just not right now.
Like I said, instead of $1 million, it might be 1.1 or 1.2. We don't know those things, increases, but
We wouldn't start the project until we had to anyway, right?
yes, yeah, we wouldn't, we're not,
We're not harming ourselves by doing that.
no. You could take and you could take the $1 million and do it this year. That was the engineer's estimate, and you'd have a firm cost on it. But if you want to wait until we're actually pushed up against the wall and the state says thou shall, that's perfectly acceptable to do.
So I'm kind of thinking that the way we talked here to what Marcia's talked about earlier, paying for that land, is if we are going to lump it with the sewer project, we're going to want to do it next year. And if the owner says no, we're probably still going to need to do it. If we get an appraiser, and the appraiser is a sharpened version of the one we had for the Perkins, well, he actually didn't make the error, it was the engineer. But we don't want to end up giving him a low ball. He just needs to understand, we want the land, here's the appraisal.
And like I said, I have not had any
I don't know if we're
conversation
going to
with
have
the
to
property
eminent
owner.
domain take it, I don't know, but
Yeah, I haven't had any
Could we-
conversation with him, so.
Could we buy it and tell him he could stay there for 2 years, and maybe 4 or whatever, until we need it? I mean, could that be
Right.
part of the negotiation?
Yeah, and that was part of the negotiation. The first time, there was a period of
yeah.
time that he would be allowed to live there, so he'd have time to find a new place, or move, or whatever he was gonna
And he
do.
would have at least a year's notice or something when he had to go?
that'd be smart, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we could negotiate maybe the price down or something, or?
The other thing we even toyed around too is if he wanted to cash out, that we would rent it to him, but we didn't want to get in the rental business.
I don't think we'd even rent it. That would be part of the offer, and
Yeah.
is just let him stay there, as long as he
As long as he pays
maintains
the
it.
utilities, he'd be welcome
Yeah.
to stay there.
Yeah,
Okay, so the impact of what we just did was to remove $1 million from your page 22 of your budget from August 25th. We would pull $1 million of the biosolids out. We would remove, and we would replace it with the $175,000.
Up a line? Oh, I get it.
Yeah, you'd pull that one out. You'd pull $1 million out and you'd add 175,000. So what you're essentially doing is you're moving it from levy to bond proceeds issued at some point in the future. Now, just be aware that if you decide to buy this next year, you don't have levy dollars to pay for it. We'd need to take
But are we doing the sewer extension next year?
that's the plan. If we buy the land and don't do the extension, we wouldn't issue bonds for that amount. So you could put yourself in the position where you have to dip into your pocket to pay for it.
but I think we're in all agreement that we're gonna try to do the sewer project.
Can't we just buy it in December?
You could,
And then when do we get our first?
yeah.
It isn't like he's got to move in June that we don't know.
So that'll drop the proposed levy by 175,000.
But the biosolids is separate from the sewer
Yep,
extension.
and we're making the case that we need the land for our sewer facility. I think is what I'm
Right.
hearing you say, right?
I mean, that works, right?
Yep. When we first started talking about it, we were looking at, an additional site and potentially using the existing building as it was for some of our storage needs until we needed to transfer it at a future date to sewer use from Public Works. So now we've put it all into sewer project, whatever that project is. Okay? So that'll change this a little bit. So I think Aaron had stated he wanted to leave that in the levy amount till a later date. Is that still the intent? Or do you want it completely out of this year's levy?
I think we moved to the sewer, didn't we? With our last motion, we moved it
All
to
right.
the sewer.
Because we have a motion to keep it in, and then another motion for a different purpose to do something different
To move it
with
to
it.
sewer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
It's moved unless they want to do another motion.
okay. So everyone's in agreement, it's no longer in the levy.
Exactly.
Okay. We can make that change. So the other things, a couple things I had in there, I mean, I've got a whole bunch of questions left to answer yet that I haven't had a chance to look at, which I will do as soon as I can. So when we get to the point where we're ready to say, okay, I'm comfortable with the preliminary levy, I think I've got enough information to make a decision. Here's what it would look like. For all practical purposes, we're taking, if I go to item 3A in your packet, before we made any of the changes we talked about today, your proposed levy would be a tax rate of 29.2%. With the changes we made, this number goes down by $175,000.
From the general property tax levy.
Yep, the total goes down by that amount, this number. That one goes down. If we leave the tax rate the same as it was last year, nothing changes.
Mike, I got a question on
Sure.
on the EDA portion of this.
Okay, which
We're-
page are you on, Dave?
Well, on that back one, the same one you're on, 3A.
Yeah,
It's broken down, second item, EDA, 19,100. That's what we're allowing for the EDA this year?
that'd be for next year,
For
because they're
next
looking
year?
at updating the, comp plan.
They don't do their own levy.
They
on
do
the
not.
property
The
tax
council has
statement.
not authorized them to do their own levy.
It just seems to me it wasn't too many years ago, it was $8,000 for the EDA.
It's been all over the place.
And then it went to 12,
Then it went to 0 for a number of years.
and now it's to 19.
Yeah, and that's project specific.
Did they use their 16 this year?
They're planning to use a large portion of it. So what I have, that's where we pay the fee to Bladec out, which is about $12,000 a year. So this is what they're looking at for 2022, in addition to what they plan to spend on the comp plan, either this year or carry it into next. This is what we pay Bladec. They've got some other things they've identified. They're looking at this over 2 years, I believe. And then that's how they got to 19.6. And so I take what they give me for expenditures and say, here's what I think your cash is going to be at year end. I don't want you to build cash that you don't need. So let's use it to reduce your budget. So we reduced the budget by $500 going into next year and say we need about 19,100 to make it work. That's how we came up with that. Now, if they refine that further and say, well, we're not going to do some of these things, then we'd lower that amount too. So they're not building cash that they don't need.
So I don't fully understand Bladek, but I mean, is the council comfortable with that much money for them? Is that good?
Well, I can try to answer that question.
Okay.
A lot, larger cities have their own economic development branch that's a paid position in the city. It's kind of, it's not truly a planning and zoning person, it's more of a economic development, business development type of position where they try to bring new businesses in rather than say, hey, we're gonna issue a permit. What Bladek does is they try to find interested people that are willing to invest their money in our area and try to find the best place for them to do that. And so instead of having our own staff do that, we hire Bladek to perform that function. And the way Bladek works today is their board is made up of a number of highly successful business owners throughout the county and the region. If you remember, a few years ago, we transferred our revolving loan fund to them because we hadn't issued a loan for many years. And so what we tried to do was, Bladek came up with a concept called the Unified Plan, where we were able to take that federal grant money. We had two options. We could take that federal grant money and transfer it to another eligible entity so it could be combined into larger projects to attract businesses to our overall area that impact all of us, or we could send it back to the federal government. Because we were kind of in the position, we were limited with, we could only loan out $100,000 per unit. And so what Bladek was trying to do was saying, look, that's not gonna cut it if we've got someone who wants to put up a building and add 300 employees. We need to find a way to consolidate Crosby and East Gull Lake and all these other areas around that are close to us in our geographic area, so we can attract new business. And that's what they did. And so at that time, the council transferred in the neighborhood of about just under $500,000 of loan money. If you remember, how did we get the money? There was a corporation started by Don Engen many years ago to secure funding to finance the clinic, the Essential Health Clinic that's in town. That's how we got the revolving loan fund. And once they paid that off, we started issuing small loans to businesses, whether it was a coffee shop or whatever it was, in our own community. We had some success and we had some failures with that. So what we did, we had two options when we decided to do something different, or the council did. You could either continue on the way and hope someone would come and take your money and invest it in their business, or you could combine it with a larger entity and try to do something for the whole region. If you decided to end your program, you give the money back, the grant money back to the federal government. And the council at the time thought it was better to transfer those funds to Crow and Cooperative, who's managing the Unified Fund now. And they handle all that grant application and they try to place those funds with the best package that they can do.
So we're in.
Yeah.
So Bladek is in Brainerd also, right? And we've got our group here in town. Is that not true?
That's true. We have a commission or a committee, an economic development commission that works with Bladek. If a new business comes in, what we do is we say, we want this business in Cross Lake because it makes sense for us to be in Cross Lake, and we want that into our commercial tax base. Work with Bladek to help navigate through the process to make that work. Before we were trying to do that on our own. It was actually run through the phone company, and to have that type of revolving loan fund, our grant was specific to rural utilities. We qualified because we had a rural utility called Cross Lake Communications. When Cross Lake Communications was sold, we no longer had what was a rural utility for purposes of the the original grant agreement. So our choice was transfer those funds to another eligible entity or send the money back to the federal government. So we were able to push that through BladeAct to the unified fund so it could still be used in our area without giving it back to the.
So do
federal
we
government.
get a report from Bladek or something of the things that they have done over the years or something?
They talked to the,
I mean, I know they did Crosstech. I think they helped
Yep.
Roger Roy with that project.
yep. We haven't received, they have no obligation to provide us any report on that, but they would be willing to come and talk to us. I know that.
Who would that be, Patty and Dean?
No, it would be Tyler Glenn.
Okay.
Patty and Dean are.
I mean,
on the
I don't
EDA
understand the program. I just see it going out and I don't know what they do.
Yeah, you see, the EDA is kind of its own entity, but it falls under the governance of the city, the way the accounting rules work. By statute, an EDA can have their own levy if the council authorizes them to do that. For all practical purposes, I can show you what that amount would be. They would still be under the control of the city, but the levy would be issued over the taxpayers of the city. So if you go to your budget packet and go to page 2 of the preliminary budget from August 25th, for pay 2021, under the statute, under 469-107, the maximum EDA levy could have been 0.0813% of the previous year's estimated market value, which would have generated $240,000 for the EDA to do what the EDA would want it, whatever they want it to do with under their rules. So I wasn't comfortable with that when I started here, so I asked the council to change how they're treating the EDA, because under statute, the council can say, hey, wait a second, you can't do that levy unless we let you do it, is the short story. Because what we didn't want to see is the EDA kind of doing their own thing and then having it impact the local tax rate. 'Cause that's a big number with respect to our levy. They could have gone out and said, okay, we're gonna levy those dollars and do our EDA. So we took that, so the council took that authority away from them. Okay?
So, but the council now, they've taken it upon themselves to redo the comp plan, is that true? And that's what they're budgeting part of their money for?
That's what they're budgeting part of their funds for. I mean, that has to be updated every few years.
And the EDA is that?
The EDA
that's-
takes the lead on that. They work with the EDA and John and the city and the council to do that.
Okay.
If you remember, one year we got a grant from the Initiative Foundation. You know, we got $10,000 from them to do it.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Switching gears on you, and it relates to what we talked about, the resolution approving the preliminary levy on 3A.
Okay.
So we've kind of talked about reducing that number, that levy amount, by 175. So if I go back to page 6, let me stop right there. But for now, to what Aaron, I think, said at one time, we could leave this number in here because it's got us covered. And in December, we can decide we're going to lower it.
That's correct.
And to what, I think I read a couple of Tom's comments, by November or something, we'll have a better idea of how all of those expenditures fall in place. You know,
Yeah.
all those details that, you know, if they're good, then they're good. If they're not gonna happen, then we could look at next year and adjust them then. But this being a number that's high will cover us. But let's just say we went ahead with this today or in September, and then we decided the 175 is going to come out, which is what we decided. Then that drops our levy. We actually reduced the levy by, it goes down compared to the prior year by 0.4%.
I think we made a motion to take it out of the levy, and
So the,
motion to take that
Right.
175 out.
so the question then is, this sheet needs to be redone. Is that what you're gonna redo?
That's what
Or
I
were
would
you gonna
redo.
leave
Yep,
it
I would
like
redo
that?
that sheet and bring it forward with the changes we've talked about
right.
today. Now, that page 6 is going to change, because remember, we took the bonds for the roads out.
Right.
You know, and that number changed substantially.
We want that format, but the numbers are gonna change based on the direction, the motion.
The one we just made, right.
Yeah.
3A resolution, those numbers will change based on what we did.
Right, so based on what you did,
I still have more, so
I bet you do. So 3A, if you left it like it is, it would be,
that's what I'm here for.
yep, I know, 107, it would change. The other one wouldn't change if you didn't take it out, so. So let's go ahead, Marcia, here. Before we
Okay.
get to that,
Donations. We got 6,000 in there. I don't know that we should be levying 6,000 to give money away to the citizens. We gave 350 this year so far.
we haven't paid all of our donations out yet. Those
okay.
are funds that we pay to the Initiative Foundation. We just got the bill for the chamber for $3,500. It's under donation, but that's actually support for the food shelf. We just haven't paid those bills yet. I know there's a $3,500 bill that's going out to support the chamber, and then another $1,650 to the Initiative Foundation. So that'll pretty much take that up.
That was part of my prior discussion of Tom's question, his list, because we're only halfway through the year and we don't have all these months posted.
But
And
last
they
year-
could come in less,
Last
they
year,
could
we only
come in
gave,
more.
last
So
year we
we should
gave
wait until
3,700.
November and then decide. We'll have more clarity for 10 months or whatever.
well, we have last year's
Yeah, but I don't know, they're
and
putting
a half
it-
a year's
yeah.
actual now. But,
I wouldn't trust last year's because of the COVID issues.
Yeah, we're, comparing to last year is a challenge for us right now, especially when you look at the park and cemetery lot sales.
okay, then I have another question,
Okay.
unless somebody's got some questions they want to, I have one for Eric. The repairs and maintenance supply equipment,
Yeah.
$20,000. Is there a reason that it went, that you feel you need 20,000 in there?
We haven't been tracking very well. I haven't been tracking very well the maintenance costs regarding cloud, video camera, and body camera maintenance, warranty stuff. That's all part of this. And that, along with the county charging, almost $2,000, $3,000 a year for, 4,000, is it? For access for the records management system. So that hasn't been tracked really well over the past few years. And it's been kind of, all right, well, we'll take it out of here, we'll take it out of there, and so I just wanted under one item.
Okay, so that $9,000 for the cloud.
Right.
That was
And
kind
by
of a
the way, part of
surprise
that
to
is
me.
coming back.
It,
They charged us for 18 units. I looked at that bill again. They charged us for 18 units. We only have 12. So a third of that is coming back to us, which I think it was 13,000 or something like that.
Yeah, and you've got some other changes that you're still
Right.
waiting to find out on the
But
on the
that's
camera
an
upgrades.
annual, isn't that, I forgot what it's called, that Department of Justice. Is that annual too, those figures? The Department of Justice and, help me out, Aaron. We signed those agreements.
Oh, yeah, the,
Is that
with the
annual?
CJIS information, that's annual. That's monthly, actually, so an annual. fee, I
So
think we'll end up
could
paying.
we have a line item showing the 9,000 cloud and the county's access and the Department of Justice fee? Could we have a line item so we can keep a handle on that instead of repairs and equipment, so we know that that's actually where
Well,
that is?
All right, and I guess that's where it comes under is maintenance contracts. That's what, when Mike and I discussed what would be best to put that under. And we determined that it would be under the maintenance part.
Because
being that
I'm
it is
looking at it and I'm
maintenance.
thinking you're repairing all these
Right.
cars and vehicles.
Yep. No, I get it. I get it.
What
No,
are
we're-
you doing? But Could we,
I don't
could we
know,
divide
it's-
that out
Yeah,
to
we can
like
work together to come up with a better solution.
iCloud fees? Or
I'm not gonna tell him
Don't.
that he should put it under a.
No, I'm just asking if we
Yeah, we
can.
can
It would
give
be a
some-
whole lot clearer for everybody. That it's not equipment repair, really. We're buying cloud space and access to the county thing, and we're paying into the state for,
Each squad has their own line item.
Regarding squads, that's different. That's the,
Right, so
each
you're-
squad does have their own line item. But when we do repair and maintenance on that, but what we're talking about is above and beyond
I'm
the
talking about
maintenance
the
contracts. that we
contract,
have.
the maintenance contracts rather than maintenance of equipment.
Right.
If that could be done, that would be wonderful. It would make it a lot easier when you look at the budget, and you're going like, well, why are we spending $20,000 on the squad cars?
Right.
That's my thought. Anybody else can tell me I'm wrong, I don't care.
Well, in squad cars, it's 6,200. That's, no, it's 6,200 altogether is, our vehicle maintenance and repair. So each squad is designated its own depending on which year it is. You know, the older the squad, the more money it gets in its repair.
Yeah, so right now, we've got 3 line items there, and then Eric tracks them in more detail. We've got repairs and maintenance, vehicles, equipment, and buildings. So we do track those things separately, they're not all lumped together. So we can take another look at that.
And have a contract one. Or dues, licensing, whatever it's called.
We do have dues and, we do too? We do have,
We do.
dues and subscriptions, and, we just weren't sure if that was really where we wanted that to be.
We'll come back with more clarity, how's that? More questions? They can't be the last one.
Give everybody else a chance if they have questions.
You're doing great, Marcia.
I think keep on going.
Yeah, well, unless Dave does.
Okay, this question is for Ted.
Yes, ma'am.
The striping, do we do like 30, 40,000 in striping every year?
This has been about 17 to 18,000. The reason it went up is the downtown area that we now take care of. You know, Jim Anderson turned it over to us. It's due to be striped. It's in need to be striped, so that's why it went up this year.
And next year you have 35,000.
Yes, we usually in that 17 to 20. And next year, because of adding the downtown to it, it'll be $35,000.
Oh, okay.
So it's doubling almost.
There's a lot of striping down there, all those parking
A
stalls.
lot of stalls to stripe, crosswalks too,
Okay.
curbs.
Yeah, thank you.
Have to ask.
It's a good question, thank you.
Then I have another one on engineering fees.
Okay.
Aren't they all associated with the projects? Why do we have another 25,000 in there?
They're not always associated with the project.
When let's say we have a question on a bike path and we don't have a project, it would be, that's where it would go to, or we have a grade issue and we need the engineers to come out and help us do a little survey and help us come up with a solution, that's where it would come from. It wouldn't be associated with a project then.
Oh, okay.
When we do get to one where it's large enough for a project, we use that account to cover the preliminary costs before we have a project.
You remember we
Then we
had,
transfer it.
Mr. Mayor, Eagle Street? We've got to do some work there, and the engineer came out and helped us, a temporary solution right now with that hole, but in the long term, there'll be a road project, so.
Do we need to, well, yeah, maybe engineering fees, maybe 25,000 is okay.
Well, if you look at $10,000 for the 2 crosswalks,
Yeah.
it disappeared pretty
It doesn't
Yeah.
go very far when you get
It goes
into
away
survey
pretty
work.
quick. Then we've got another project coming up we're working on too. I think you all know about John Colston's been working on this one with the developer. We'll have a few engineering fees for that too.
He's supposed to pay those.
He will, yeah, but we have to pay him and get reimbursed. We'll show it on top and bottom.
And my other one was the 11,000 for that Public Works, and you've got that covered.
Yep, we talked about that. I had originally put the 53.5 in there, and thinking, well, we're gonna get that done, and we backed that off to 11,000 based on the comments at the Public Works.
Cemetery?
Yep, that's cemetery. And I think that's in your, I've got that listed on item 2C in your packet. So most of the packet was stuff you already had, and then the other information in there was just some clarification.
Did we do anything with sewer rates?
We did not. Now, the suggestion is if you look at how we're tracking, we're right around that 25,000 a month through June. And then our average goes up a couple thousand a month in fees. So what I did is I said, you know, I need to at least cover depreciation with that. And so Ted and I thought 3.25 was a good number for 2022 for sewer fees. Now, we think we'll probably hit that 325, but we might even exceed it. Because now we've got Whitefish Assisted Living on for a full year. That's filling up, so they're using more water. And then you're seeing, you can talk about the flows you're seeing.
Well, and that's just it, is normally this time of year, our flows are starting to drop off. We'll still run in 60, 65,000 gallons a day. That's a summertime flow. So we got to account for it someplace. It's got to be somebody's bill, so.
What percentage of the plant capacity is that?
Oh, we're still, as far as overall, I mean, we're designed as a wet weather flow of 150. So we're a third. In the summertime, 4th of July, we run to that 100, 105. So you're going to pick up with the estimate up here was about 6,000 to 7,000 gallons a day of flow peaking. Moonlight by itself in a month's time, just from their meter, is doing 6,000 to 7,000 gallons a month.
In the prime months, peak months?
In their prime peak months.
Yeah.
Even the car washes, it's surprising, the car wash, you know, in the peak months for the car wash, March.
Yeah.
Because everybody's cleaning their car up from after the winter. I had to look through all the charts and graphs and it showed that, so.
Yeah, so we're seeing an uptick for a longer period of time at a higher rate is what.
Yeah, and it hasn't backed off. The staff asked me the other day if we want to start shutting down part of the plant. I said, well, we better hold off until we see the flows start dropping a little more, so.
As long as we're talking sewer, how about lab testing and chemicals? Are they going way up? Because I see in the budget that, that you've increased it a lot.
Well, they told us that the chemicals are 25%.
Really?
Increase, yeah. And it's getting harder and harder to get sources. Some places, plants have actually had to change gears and come up with something else and realize that chemical has to be approved by the state for you to use it. So it's a long drawn out process if we change. Lab testing, that just depends on the year. I mean, how much we're going to have to do it. As well as the plant is running, what we had in was adequate, you know, is to cover what we had to do. But if we start having hiccups and we got to do more research on what's going on, it takes more, so.
I don't have a degree in sewers, so I have to ask this. Will the clarifiers help with what you use for chemical and the lab testing?
All of those things or changes or fixes should reduce our chemical load, should increase the capacity of the plant. All of those things should help.
Yeah, but we're seeing increased costs in chemicals. We're seeing a lot of things change that we don't have under our control. What else have you got, Marcia?
I just have a question about the assigned balances. Of course, I haven't seen the new balance sheet, but
They'll be in the council
will the
packet.
assigned balances be in those designated
There'll
fund
be assigned
balance?
fund balances, yep.
It will be.
I've automated the ones I can automate with our system, but most of the ones in the general fund will still be a manual effort to do that. But I've updated them through what I know through August 31st, and they're in the council packet. That'll be coming out the next day or so.
So it's just a matter of a journal entry then to get.
Well, it's more
to
than
get-
that. I mean, you've got to do quite a bit of reconciling to get there. And then I
Well,
took.
Isn't that just taking it out of the reserve fund and putting it in the designated fund?
Once you know what that number should be, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But it takes a while to get there, because it's not an
But
automatic
if
process.
we assign these balances, that total balance could go into reserve balance instead of the unreserved.
It'd go into assigned, restricted, or committed, or
Yeah.
uncommitted. Reserves are
Yeah.
gone.
So an entry.
Yep, and so, like, we started out the discussion, trying to figure out that we didn't need to issue debt for roads under our current plan. That's what I did. I went and projected that out through the end of the year to try to get an idea. Now, there's a lot that can happen in the next 4 months that can change that.
Can we take monies from the assigned balances and use them instead of levying for dollars?
We can, and we've done that to an extent. in
I
this.
I think even in our audited financial statement, it says we'll spend the assigned balances before we levy for a project.
Well, now remember, some of them are only, can be used for certain things too.
Exactly.
So we followed through with that, and if you remember in the audit, a lot of that balance was made up of money we had set aside for this building along with the fire hall too. That was the majority of it. So there are a couple other things we need to address. I mean, I'll come back with an updated levy sheet for Monday with the changes we talked about. But some of the other chatter I'm hearing, not in specific, can you give me back a screen? Some of the things we need to still talk about is, some of the comments from some of the meetings I've heard is, what are we doing about VRBO compliance? What are we doing about new building and ongoing maintenance requirements? Do we have an estimated cost for that, and if so, what is it? Where I'm going with this is at some point we need to put a placeholder in somewhere if you're thinking of hiring an administrative staff, either for a shared person for fire or police or VRBO or sewer compliance or whatever it is that we've been talking about for the last several years. But if you're planning to do that, just be aware that you're probably not going to find a minimum wage type person that has that skill set. Okay? So
I think it's early to start talking about staffing VRBO because we don't even know if we're going to take it over.
We don't get any money right now.
we don't get
Yeah.
any money right now.
Until that thing is settled, right?
What
I mean, between county and city,
The county's not gonna let go of it. The city could impose stricter, they could go on top of the county.
oh, you don't think the county will let
I
us
don't think so.
take it over?
Doesn't sound like it.
Oh,
Yeah, it's just there for a discussion point, that if at some point you're thinking of doing something with it, whether it's sewer inspections or fire
But-
inspections, were a big thing,
Let's spend 5 minutes on that, can we?
Sure.
I've been thinking about this a lot. There's about 250 vacation rentals in Cross Lake. They advertise from 6 to 18 people in each house. So at an average of 10 people per house, that's a population of 22,000 or 2,200 people that they're adding. In the fall, the winter, the off seasons, we're used to all these people leaving and vacating it. Now they're not. 'Cause
They're not.
They're
They're
doing
here.
these year round. So it's the sewer, it's the police, it's the fire, it's the calls, it's all
the
this
roads.
stuff. So, I mean, I would like to spend some time on this, and I think we need to generate some money from the people that own the VRBOs. The general tax people, they're not benefiting from it. The vacation rental people are benefiting huge from it. And it's gonna start costing us some serious money, with all the departments.
The other side of that argument too is, if they're listed as a commercial property, they're gonna pay more tax.
Yeah, but we don't care. It just cost infrastructure. It just cost us having that additional. It's doubling our population.
Ted and I have talked to, the homes that are on septics, they have to be inspected.
Yeah.
But the ones on the municipal sewer, we should maybe be
Metered.
metering.
Yeah.
Because they're using a lot of water.
They're commercial, and under our ordinance, they should be metered.
You know,
But I
and it's a
think we-
change of use of that property too, so your connection fee would potentially be adjusted, correct, Ted? I don't think you can do that, but,
Well, whatever it is, I mean, it's
Yeah.
getting to be a big burden on the city. And, you know, if you look at the merchants, they love it. You know, their sales are skyrocketing, and that's good as long as it's managed, and we have to get management into it. So do we budget this year? I hate to see it go down the road another year or two before we do something. I think we gotta do something immediate. I'm actually was gonna kinda save this for Monday night, but me and my town hall meetings, I enjoy those meetings. I get public. And I'm gonna call another one for like the 23rd or something of this month, specifically about VRBOs, and I think the council should come and listen. But, you know, we need to hear what both sides of the people wanna say. Some people say if you put any more charges on us, we're gonna sell our place. Well, good, sell it, you know? I mean,
You mean the VRBOs are gonna
owners
sell?
of them. But every day I hear of a couple of them that, yeah, we just bought a place and we're fixing it up to rent. You know, there's not gonna be any places to buy in town because people are buying multiple houses.
I still have trouble understanding how we allow them to run in a residential area.
That's absolutely true, but if we're going to, and we're gonna get a lot of kickback if we don't, I think they're good. You know, it lets people come up here and see the area, but they have to behave themselves and they have to pay their dues.
Do we still have a committee?
No.
We never did have one.
Well, we did, yeah, but it's just when the county came in, we kind of, it dissolved to wait to see what the county's doing. But, you know, and the county's trying, they're going through growing pains, but they're never gonna take it to the level that we need to take it to in town here. They're never gonna get there. So,
So do they say we can't take control?
yeah, they have said that. They charge $400 a piece for licensing.
Yeah,
They're gonna kind of wanna keep doing that.
but that doesn't mean
If
that
I-
we couldn't take it back, we couldn't take control of it.
Well, no, yeah.
Then they wouldn't
Well, we
have
could-
control of licensing in Cross Lake is all.
Yeah, we could do
So
that.
we could do that. I mean, it doesn't say,
What the county said was they aren't going to give up the $400 they're collecting. They're going to still do that, even if the city takes over the process. What you have to understand is if the city's going to take over that process, current staff can't handle that workload.
We get
You're going to
that.
have to hire someone.
We get that.
yeah, we understand it, but if we can't get the licensing, then there's no point. Because we don't have any income to support that staff.
I even made a
Correct.
bold statement of if somebody doesn't sign up to be a legitimate VRBO, we have we charge them $5,000 penalty fine for not being on a board. That would generate some money. Piss some people off too, but it'd generate some money. And that's what we need to do, so that we're not burdening the normal taxpayer with what it is. So anyway, we're not gonna answer it today, but I think that that's something that we need to do sooner than later. People are leaving town because of it. They're getting driven out of their neighborhoods that have been here for a long time.
Mayor?
Maybe we should check with the attorney on whether we can take it back from the Crow Wing
Well,
County.
we can't, you know, that's not gonna decide, you know, whatever we do, it's gonna be more than what the county's doing. That's the bottom line.
well, I think if you do that, you're gonna have to be prepared to actually handle it if that does occur, to John's point.
Yeah, no,
And right now, we're
that's
not.
part of the conversation,
Yeah.
definitely.
That'll change the levy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well, unless
we're
we
not
get
even
it
there.
Someplace else.
That'll probably be 2023.
Mayor?
Yep. Aaron?
Yes. Why don't we have Mike put together a couple of staff people, take a look at this RVBO, see where we can charge fees, et cetera, and see if it can be financially sustainable. I think right now we're going to kick it around till we say that we can't do anything without county support. and I suspect we can. But let's keep it internal. Let's not put a citizen group together, because I think we'll get an answer so we can make a decision before we have to finalize our tax.
Well, as John just stated, Aaron, they don't have the time to put into that right now, so, and we don't want to hire more staff right now. I don't know that putting it in the citizens is a bad thing. I think that we should help them, let them help us decide how far to take it, at least. I mean, that's my opinion. So, you know, this is not gonna be answered overnight. It's gonna take a while, but.
Well, then it's wide open to whatever they wanna, whoever wants to buy the property and rent it.
Well, it is right now, but, you know, we could put some teeth in
Well-
something reasonably quick. Now we're getting into off-season, so it's gonna slow down, but,
Well, then somebody has to research something so we come up with an acceptable solution to the residents.
right. Well, anyway, that's my 2 cents on that.
Do we put some money in the budget to hire a part-time person to do some consulting for us, like call around to gather data from cities that are dealing with Verbo? I mean, that's, I just don't know. And to me, there's no sense reinventing the wheel. If we find some cities that, you know, what are you guys doing? And then they might come back and say, well, we charge this, but it costs us twice that much, and it's a losing battle, you know? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we could ask the chamber to do that.
No.
Well,
Make
I
the
think
calls.
we've got a little time, even in this budgeting cycle, to do something, and that's,
I just don't think we should, until the county says, oh, okay, if you want to take it over, you take it over. I don't think we should put any money into it until we know if we're going to be able to take it over. If they say, absolutely, you're not going to be able to take it over, we're keeping it, and
well, Bill Brecken is gonna come back up at the county, and we're gonna have another meeting about it.
okay, so
But the
it's
county
too
will still
early.
collect the $400.
Well, that's what
Whether we
they're
take it
saying
over or
now.
not, and where I don't get it is, what is their purpose
Yeah.
in that, at that point? What is their cost if Cross Lake is covering?
Yeah. So that's an
Other than
argument
a
we
tap
have to
base.
make.
That's where I think an attorney could help us.
Right now, the issue that the county has is, and the reason they're tracking this is 100% for tax purposes. They are trying to find out the people that are renting for more than 50% of the year, so they then can charge them commercial taxes for their property instead of the recreational or residential. That is why they want to keep the program in their grasp so they can have control over that. You can add on to that from the city. Chip has made a request and talked about it where he does fire inspections. And you charge the people for fire inspections, making sure they have fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, and egress from these rooms that they say they have in their property so that they can legally call it a bedroom. If he goes in and they don't have the proper egress, he can say, this is not a 4-bedroom house, this is only a 2-bedroom. And thus you're reducing the amount of people that can legally stay there according to what the fire marshal says. So there is some things that the city can do, but until you get the county to agree to give up the program, that initial registration fee is not going to be coming to the city. You can charge for the inspections that Chip would do and that staff, but not the registration part of it.
Well, we could charge a city registration fee on top of the county one. So there are some things that we
Certainly
could
can
do.
do that,
Yeah.
but you got to look at it, what is that going to cost for staff?
Yeah, no, but it's not going away. So whatever the answer is, we gotta look into it.
Do we get what hunk of the commercial tax do we get? Do you have any idea? I mean, there must be.
We get what our tax rate is
30%.
against their value.
Yeah.
The rest goes to the state and the county and the school district. They're just taxed at a different rate. at the
You can
county
get that
level.
breakdown from the county if you wanted it.
Well,
How
you know,
much
I
is
kind of
commercial?
look, it's not like Verbo just showed up in June. They've been around here for probably 15 years.
No, but they're really intensifying now, though.
Well, I know, but you can't,
Sign of the time.
right?
So I'm sure you've got more questions as soon as we leave. Dave, you're at about 11 or 12 minutes, by the way.
11 or 12 from what?
Yeah, you asked for 5, but
Oh,
I'm giving you a hard time.
it's the only 11 I had.
Do I get to take that off the agenda for Monday night then?
Take that one, no, you don't.
So I'll try to get responses to the questions I have, redo the sheets, and revisit it again Monday night. Okay?
Sounds good.
But yeah, get your questions to me, hopefully not 2 minutes before we meet.
And you'll be reducing the 3A resolution according to our,
Yeah,
okay,
I think I remember what that is, so we'll,
it was 3A.
And I'll have packets for Monday's meeting ready tomorrow.
so I'll work on that tonight then, right?
Tom, you got one more thing?
Can you address, I'm sorry, Tom, can you address the need for another skid steer plus a $32,000 snow blower for it? And do we need 2 skid steers, or is the one you guys are using getting to the point where you're gonna start having trouble with it, so you're gonna get a new one? It's $80,000 for a skid steer, and then another $32,000 to put a snow blower on it.
Our current snow blower is about 9 years old. It's due for an update. It's getting bent and out of shape. That's what a new one costs. I don't have any idea what they give us for a trade-in, but that's what we use for clearing the boulevards when the snow gets so deep in that. I apologize, I was trying to talk to Tom. As far as replacing the skid steer, it was in our operating budget to replace it last year. I moved it to this year. The reason we moved it to the park was, some of you are aware that there was some damage to the new Kubota tractor. And Kubota said, oh, well, it was abuse. I can't see there was anybody abused the tractor, but the 2 lifting cylinders were bent. Well, if that Kubota can't handle lifting and moving things around the park, they gotta have a piece of equipment that can, and that Bobcat is the opportunity for them to have something that's heavy enough to move the things that they're doing around their park.
Do they have anybody that can drive it? They don't have anybody that can operate it, the commercial?
No, we just need to change the status of the employee, and he has his own Bobcat. He is highly experienced and very good operator with a Bobcat. So yes, he could.
Doesn't have the right licensure, right?
He has a Class B driver's license. He doesn't need a license to operate a Bobcat. He just needs the experience and somebody to check him out on it. So
I would think we could share the Bobcat between Public Works and the park.
when our Bobcat goes out, it's out and, back, and they've got need for it at the same time. It happens all the time. I just don't have the staff to take and go over there and do work for them all the time, so
How
it was.
old is that Bobcat?
Ours?
5 years?
I think it's in either 7th or 8th year. I don't remember specifically.
It's got a lot of hours on it?
It's sitting at about 2,000, and that's optimal when you either start changing tracks or going to the next phase on it, so.
You haven't changed tracks on it yet?
No, we haven't had to. So far, operating on what we've been doing, they're holding up, so.
I see it going down to bike paths. Those are typically pretty hard on them.
Staff doesn't abuse the equipment. They're using it to get a job done, and they're not abusing it, so.
Is the Kubota tractor the wrong tractor?
Well, we had the John Deere before, and everything that we were doing with the John Deere, they're doing with the Kubota today. The John Deere didn't have any issues other than, once in a while a hydraulic line broke or whatever. Kubota they are saying that we abused it. I cannot see where any of our staff, after talking to staff, I went and kind of investigated. I can't see where any of our staff was doing anything different than they were doing before. I don't see they were abusing the equipment, so.
I just got to ask, because it's $112,000 between the skid steer and the snow blower.
And we could make the snow blower go another year. It's just getting bent and things are getting worn on it. It all depends on how much snow we get too.
My thought was buy the snow blower and not buy the skid steer.
It still doesn't answer what they need down there, so, but that was why we brought it forward.
What were they lifting that they bent it?
They were moving dirt, wood chips, and backgrading the site for the new pickleball, and that's when this happened. They did nothing that should have abused that tractor. It should have handled all those things. But the main lifting cylinders on the arms were actually bowed a couple, 3 inches.
So you gotta replace the cylinders only?
Yeah, and we just had to replace it. It just got back. They replaced the cylinders on it.
So can you put the new snow blower on the existing skid steer?
Yes. It's the same attachment.
So if you would put the skid steer off another year and buy the snow blower, you could put it on your existing skid steer.
Yes.
And you could, then if you purchase the skid steer next year, or I mean the following year,
Yeah.
you can use that new snow blower
Yes.
on there.
Yes. It's a universal attachment. As long as you buy high flow equipment, the same high flow hydraulics, it works, so.
Well,
I agree. I got a 20-year-old Bobcat that's got 4,500 hours on it, and I have never done anything other than change oil on it,
yeah.
you know, so. and
I'm thinking I'd
Nobody
like
works
to-
anything harder than I do.
I'd like to make
Yeah,
a
and I'm-
motion to take the skid steer off but still buy the snow blower.
Well, yeah, if the snow blower's working, can we get it through another year? God, it's, you know, it's new city hall, fire hall, new sewer, you know, I mean, all these things that are,
It was, like I said, it's been we put a budget together. We did a 5-year capital plan on trucks and all this, and pickups and everything, and it got moved.
I think I need
Twice.
to ask you to everybody to pull those fine line item, but things out of the budget, because I go through the budget, I don't even see that stuff in there.
So the 1 ton, I don't know a lot about trucks and 1 ton, 2 ton. We bought a snow plow, but you got a 1 ton here with the plow on it. And a sander and controls. What are you replacing?
Replacing the existing 1-ton Ford truck that we have that we use on the small streets.
Okay, what year is that? Do you have any idea?
2008.
Yeah, so it's a 2008, yeah.
Oh.
It's been well used, so.
The skid steer's still working fine?
Yeah, the skids, that's why we were gonna move it to it's probably worth more to us to take and rather than trade it in, to move it to the park. And it would fit their needs for many years, I would think. But we can, whatever the council chooses, I'll.
Do you have
I'll work
you
with.
got a trailer to haul that Bobcat on, right?
Yes, we do. We move it around quite a bit.
I know, I see it driving around quite a bit too, but that's hard on them.
Hard on the bogies, hard on all the suspension, tracks. It's wear and tear.
But I mean, using the trailer more would drop the hours down, drop everything down on it. Whenever they can. Yeah, I don't know, I would take it off. We just do a lot of stuff.
I have a motion.
I can't believe
it
that's
must
been
have
8
failed for
years
lack of
already.
second, huh?
Yeah, I believe it is.
So what was your motion, Marcia? I'm sorry.
My motion was, and you wanted to take the snow blower off, but my motion was to take the skid steer off, not the snow blower. But, I mean, I can amend it if that's what you want, but
I'd take them both off myself.
maybe you want to make the motion.
Yeah, I'd make a motion, we remove both of them from it. Save $100,000 on the thing.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, motion and second, any other discussion on it? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Oh, okay.
I was waiting for you to do that.
Dave Nevin,
Yes.
Dave Schrupp,
No.
Aaron Herzog,
No.
John Andrews.
Can someone read the motion to me? I cannot understand you all.
It's just a motion to remove the new Bobcat and snow blower from the 2022 budget at a cost of $100,000, or how much was it? $112,000.
And the reasons for removing it?
Well, the ones they have are working, you know? The need, do we need
Got it.
them?
Yeah, I'm going to say no.
Marcia Zebra-Bowles,
Yes.
motion fails.
Motion fails, 3-2. Okay? But I kind of, could I ask you to do that? Break down those line items so I can see what's in it? Because I don't see them when I look through them.
Mayor Nevin, could you talk in the microphone and see if I could fix it so I can understand you? Something's not working with your mic and a bunch of the other mics.
Oh, okay. I'm just asking Ted to give me the breakdown detail of his budget requests.
That's good. I can hear you when you do that.
Okay, that's all.
Yes, I'll work on that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, anything else? We had enough? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
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 All in favor? Good.
I couldn't hear what
We
the
all did
motion
it so that you could